Good afternoon. Thank you for staying in the room. I think there was some people who just got for some coffee, so I'm pleased to be here today. So I think there's a return. So I'll tell you a little bit about me to start with. So with this, or this, even better. Okay, so Bankable is not my first company, so thank you for introducing me as a veteran. I am a veteran. So I've set up different companies before. One went public, and currently I'm one of the few CEOs who built a company public above $1 billion. So Bankable will be, I believe, bigger than my previous one. So far, I've raised about $100 million. But to create Bankable, it's whatever track record you have, it's always very difficult to restart something from scratch. So if some of you want to start something, I prefer to warn you, it's not an easy road. But as my lawyer says, if it was so easy, everybody will be rich. So anyway, so my previous company was Fintech, so it was a technology company that we grew from a sofa bed in one country to multiple countries, about 1,500 people. And that we went public from inception to IPO in 6 years. And we had no VC as well. Like at Bankable, we still have no VC. So it's private money, friends and family. And in fact, we work with investors that can open doors. And I think the reason we have no VC is we only propose common shares. So VCs, they like their preferred shares, but it's not available for us. So we don't have VCs. Why did I start Bankable, actually? So we started in 2010, so it's not last month. And I think the idea was to democratize payment, because when I looked at the certain transaction, I've seen things that I've never seen in any other industries. You see margins that are 200%, 300%, where usually what I know is that when you buy something 10, you have a cost of 5, and you make 5. Not in banking. You get multiple revenue feeds, and then you end up with a gross margin that could be seen by the consumer as abusive. And I thought that was a massive, I think it was extremely interesting to disrupt those things. The other problem I saw as well is, from my background, is that there's a lot of companies for banks. So the problem is not the bank, it's more the system within the banks and the vendors from the banks. So I think in fact, if you're a bit pessimistic, all the large IT providers globally, either service or software, they're mainly roll-ups. So they buy sometimes good companies, sometimes average companies, sometimes bad companies, because they need to go on the market with a press release. And at the end, the bank buys these services, and it's difficult to maintain, it's expensive, you buy legacy. So I think there was an opportunity in fact, to move from something from a software. You buy a software, you integrate the software, you get Accenture on board. It takes 5 years, you're in a tunnel. And in fact, in reality, when after 5 years, your project is obsolete because your business has changed. So what I wanted to build was a platform. I think a platform is a much more modern way to build software. You start with a platform, you demonstrate transaction within weeks, and then you progress from 1 or 2 transactions, thousands of transactions, to millions of transactions. So that's the big change, I think, in banking IT that has happened. And currently, we can definitely, we work, in fact, with incumbents, so we don't believe that only fintechs have the monopoly of innovation. I think fintech, if you look at all the large banks, they've been innovating forever. Now they've got, of course, 3,000 to 4,000 systems, so they need to maintain that. And to innovate, it's quite difficult. So we've built a core platform that is, and our goal is time to market. It's nothing else. Although I can talk to you about processing, integration with Gemalto, all that is nice. But I think if you can't demonstrate relevance, and I think it's all on our servers as well. That's the originality. So we sold things that were completely taboo 5 years ago. So Deutsche Bank is a client of ours. We're a global approved vendor. We work with ABN AMRO, with multiple banks, some we can't mention. But all the critical data that we process is on our server, which means zero integration. Yeah. So when we ask, how do we integrate? We don't know what that means. That's from the 80s, 70s. I can see as well what banks have inside. I was on the wave, in the 90s, I built all the free tier architecture, software. Most of these programs have been, decommissioned. And what's left at banks or IT integrators is green screen from the 60s or 70s. I recommend you have a look. I met 30 CEOs of bank CEOs the last 5 years. Only 2 of them knew how many systems they had in their own bank. So, and recently I've sent an email to a very famous CEO. Guess what was the answer? I'm going to introduce you to my CIO. I said, well, I'm afraid if you outsource your blood, you're going to have a big surprise soon. You should be interested by what's in your company. I think that's the strict minimum. So anyway, we are, in fact, the 2 pillars of our company is, in fact, there's probably 3 pillars. It's technical, it's legal, because without being strong in legal, you can't interface with a large organization. And of course, partnership. So we promote a partnership approach, which means that we have only 5-year contracts. Sometimes there's a first 10-year contract that we're signing now because people want to see where they go. So it's a partnership. So in terms of clients, you've got all these nice logos. So it's a combination of global banks, global corporates, and fintech. Well, the other thing, just to go back, I think clearly what we do is real time. And so and it's not at all. We've just launched, in fact, something with a Starling Bank on the faster payments. So we're the first one to, in fact, propose to the market in the UK a real-time API as opposed to a batch file with all the incumbents to access faster payment. So we are a real-time organization. So I'll go briefly on that. So there's, in fact, one system. In fact, when I said earlier that banks have got 3,000 to 4,000 systems, we have one system, and we'll have only one system. That's it. But we can interface our core engine by API with whoever is relevant for our client. So the center of our platform is a virtual account system. And from this virtual account, we can generate either a digital bank from scratch. So in fact, what we will do, for the one who know about core banking system, we are the only one in the world who don't want to change the core banking system. What we do is we marginalize it. So we keep the asset of the company, of the bank, and we put our layer on top of the existing asset to make the customer experience real time. So it's real time, but it's not a revolution where you have 5 years on a $600 million project. I will not name the bank, but there's one I met last year in Scandinavia. They spent $100 million. 2 weeks ago, the number have changed because after the software, you need to add the army of people to integrate. So like $600 million, it's absurd. This is ridiculous. So I think one day shareholders will revolt and they'll question how we can spend $600 million on an IT system. Anyway, so we've got a combination of wallets. We are as well very strong on cards, so we can issue corporate cards globally. So our competitor on that is Amex. So I think I like Amex, but unless you travel in five-star hotels and restaurants on the first class, you may have an acceptance issue. So we work with Visa and MasterCard, and I think we want to promote, in fact, acceptance at 100%, so we can capture, in fact, all the transaction electronically, and we reconcile automatically everything with the CFO. So how does that work? So I think it's very simple. I think what we do is we have one contract with our client, and then we integrate in the back end either the scheme, the processor, the card production, so we integrated with Gemalto globally to all their factories. And then we pick an issue. We are not regulated. We work with other people's regulation. We are a technical provider. And in fact, the fact being regulated would be, I mean, we are as we were regulated, but we are not. So we have all the obligation, but I think we want to focus on our time and energy. And we want to be a global issuer, so we're not going to be able to have a banking license. We'll need $1 billion to do that. So we can partner with a local organization and serve our global clients this way. So customer bank, it's Deutsche Bank. And in terms of translation, which is in fact one of the topics today, we've worked with Dunlay since 2010. Why them? Because we are in the details. So we've had clients in Vietnam. I don't speak Vietnamese, so we need to trust our partner to make sure what we have is bulletproof, because one mistake in a website, and then it's a disaster. So I think we've worked with them extensively. They've got a very strong process. And in fact, I don't know if any of you are anybody from Google in the audience today? Okay, well, I've got something for you. So I love Google, a great organization, but on the translation side, for what we do, we can't use Google Translate. So there's massive improvement. It works great. So if you have a love letter, you recommend to use Google Translate. But for what we do for banks, we can't, because in fact, if you read everything, the content will belong to Google. There's no free lunch. And it will be stored. Stored where? Out of control from the corporate. So it's unfortunately a no-go. So there's a lot of technical, in fact, new changes, but I think a lot of clients where confidentiality is an issue will remain with traditional players like Donnelley. Well, they automate as well, but anyway. So currently we've got 6 nationalities. I've had 45 in my previous company. So we're trying to build that up. So it's not, I don't know if you remember this advertising for Benetton, where he was saying, "Vous me reconnaissez," do you remember me, all that? So, so I think we're not being international to be international. We are being international because it's good for business. So I am here. I'm sure there's always question about Brexit. On Brexit, I am not going back to my country. I'm staying in the UK. I'm building the UK practice, so in Canary Wharf. And in fact, I'm being stronger in the UK, irrespective of Brexit. Why? Because if you go to a few blocks away from here, you walk in Bank, in Liverpool Street, you've got 250 banks, hundreds of insurance companies, and that's unique in the world. So as long as there's headquarters in the UK, we will stay. So I'll give you 2 or 3 business cases. Yes, maybe very quickly. So one that's where to be good, we need a strong business case. So we can't be as good as the business case that we serve. So on this one, it came from the CEO of an insurance company, which means we managed to reduce the cost and increase the customer experience. So in effect, what we did, we've connected our platform to a global database for delayed flight. You go on the website, you buy a flight. In case it's 2 hours late, 2 hours delayed, you will receive 200 euros. That's the deal. So your flight is late, you don't know about it. After 2 hours and 1 second, you receive an SMS and an email with your 200 euros. So you receive the money as soon as the event has happened. So then we can either generate instantly a virtual card, so you're paid on a virtual card, or you enter your IBAN, your money is on your account. So that has been quite successful. So if there's an insurance company here, we're very happy to talk to them because we don't work with exclusivity. It's always something we're not an advertising company. We work on business cases like that, and we can deploy with other insurers. That's one. I think I will be brief because I need to respect the timing. So this one is one of our fintech clients, headquartered in France, but they're going after Europe. And what they've done is, in fact, we are a client as well of them, because what they've done is fantastic. It's a way to pay, for teams to pay something. When you have a team, the good old style is you're the CEO, you give the card to the employee and they buy something. So those guys, they build a system of virtual cards where you can allocate a budget to a team and they pay their license, Amazon, or whatever they need to pay for. Spendesk. And in order to be in time, last slide, there's probably one I missed. No? Well, Deutsche Bank. So Deutsche Bank, we've done their entire corporate solution for their 54,000 corporates. So this is why we work with large companies. It's because of distribution. There's colleagues of mine who think they will have billions of clients in the next quarter. I would rather work more realistically with, we have currently 100 clients out of 54,000 corporate clients at Deutsche Bank. So it's a start, but I think it's the way to go for us. So I think clearly we are building a global organization, another one, but with less staff. I think we have currently our servers are in Luxembourg, so we're building a lot of machine power to serve the largest company. And in fact, companies come to see us to audit our infrastructure And that's how we become an approved vendor, because we process critical data for banks or corporates. So thank you very much.